So I'm not entirely sure about you, but honestly, these past few weeks have been really challenging for me. Just kind of seeing everything that's happening in the world. It feels like the start to this year has been so chaotic and just overwhelming and extremely dysregulating. And I was thinking of a topic for today's video, like what's on my mind, what's on my heart, and I just wanted to share some tips for practicing self-care during times like these with everything that we're going through. And I think that in times like right now, it is more important than ever that we develop a self-care practice so that we can approach all of these bombardments of changes and things that are just so unjust and unfair in the world, so we can approach these things from a place of groundedness, from a place of being calm and being collected. And so I just wanted to share some tips with you today on how we can all practice self-care in times like these. So the first tip is to do our best to limit doom scrolling. And this is way, way, way easier said than actually done. And I know that to be true for myself as well. It's like when I open up social media now, it's a constant flood of just like terrible things happening in the world and happening in our country and happening in society. And it feels almost like I need to keep scrolling, like I need to learn more, like I need to dive deeper into each of these topics. And then there's a brand new topic, and then I need to dive deeper into that. And then I need to go on to the next thing and learn more about that, just to try to feel a sense of safety and a sense of peace. At least that's what my mind is telling me. But the truth is that if I take note of how I feel in these situations where I am starting to doom scroll, I don't feel good. I don't feel any more informed. I don't feel like I have a good grasp of what's happening. Instead, I feel even more overwhelmed, even more overstimulated, even more anxious and fearful. And so I think it is so important that we set boundaries with ourselves and with our consumption of media. And don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean that we turn a blind eye to everything. It doesn't mean that we bypass and ignore all these unjust things that are happening. What it means is that we set limits for ourselves with our phones. What it means is that we understand that a lot of what is shown in the social media algorithms, a lot of what is shown in the news media, it's meant to capture our attention, and it's meant to keep our attention. It's meant to keep us in this place of fear so that we keep consuming and they keep making money. So try to stay informed, but also limit how much you're consuming each day. And I think that for each person, this is going to be, or it's going to look a little bit differently. For me, that's making sure that I'm firm with my boundary with myself, that I don't check my phone before I do my morning routine. And I'm thinking now that I should probably set even more boundaries with myself and with my phone. And so I'm going to be thinking about how that's going to look for me. I think maybe going onto my settings and maybe scheduling some downtime with certain apps. I think for me it's going to be more mindful when I am on my phone and be more mindful of how it's making me feel when I am consuming this type of content, and understanding that I can be informed, but I don't need to constantly, every second of every day, be informed on what's happening. It can be a daily thing, and if it is a day where I am feeling even more overwhelmed, it might need to wait another day for me to be informed. And that's just me personally. So finding ways that we can better our relationships with our consumption of media, I think, is something that can be really helpful. And setting those boundaries with ourselves and being really firm with those. The next thing that I would suggest is to make sure that we are taking time to prioritize our needs, which also includes rest. I don't know about you, but like, it's tiring and it's exhausting living in these times that we're living in, and that's just the reality of it. And we have to make sure that we're taking note of our own needs, because we can't help other people when we are helpless ourselves. And so if you're able to find time throughout your week to prioritize your rest, maybe it means saying no to doing like one less thing, one less obligation that you would normally do, so that you can have your alone time, so that you can recharge. I think it's also important to focus on doing the things that bring you a lot of joy. When we are in that place of joy, that's when I think our best creative ideas come. That's when I think we can really recharge and fill our cups back up. That's when I think that we can connect to the good that exists that we often forget about. So prioritize your own needs, prioritize your self-care, prioritize your rest, prioritize your joy. It's not selfish. In fact, it actually is probably selfless, because like I said, when we focus on filling our cup up, we're able to give more. If we don't have anything to give within ourselves, how are we going to help out? We're not going to be able to. And if we try to, we're going to burn out. We're going to fall flat. Whereas if we come from a place of feeling empowered, feeling recharged, we're able to give more, and we're able to serve more, and we're able to help others more. So just keep that in mind if you do feel guilty about resting, or if you do feel guilty about saying no to something, or if you feel guilty about just prioritizing your own needs over others' needs. It's not selfish. In fact, it actually is selfless, as long as you're using that energy when you are recharged to be of service, to be compassionate, to be kind. The next tip that I have for self-care in these times is to connect with other people. It can often feel lonely, and it can feel like we're alone in our experience of feeling this fear and feeling this sadness and feeling this grief and whatever these emotions are that we're feeling. But I can guarantee that you're not alone in that. In fact, there's probably most people, the majority of people, are feeling something similar to yourself. So maybe that's just finding connection through social media. Maybe it is actually in-person connection with family or with friends. Maybe it's finding a professional to talk to about how you're feeling. Seeking out therapy. I think that even for us, like autistic people, it's not that we don't crave connection, it's just that our form of connection might seem different from other people. And if you're feeling really alone right now, and if you're feeling like you do need a sense of connection, try to find ways to get that connection and understand that you're not alone in how you're feeling. And in fact, the majority of people are probably feeling the same way you're feeling. And sometimes it just helps us a little bit to connect with others. And when we do that, it builds like a sense of community. It builds a sense of, we're all kind of feeling this way, and this means that we can get through it. We all have this willpower to get through it, and we're going to find ways to get through it. So find that connection, however that looks to you, whether it is just through the internet, or if it is in person with family or friends, or if it is seeking professional help. like therapy. Do what you feel like you need in this moment. If you are feeling alone, if you are feeling like it's just too much to take on in the world right now. The next thing that I would recommend is tapping into your creativity. When we feel these emotions, such as fear, such as grief, one way that we can, I guess, kind of process and work through these emotions is by expressing them through a creative outlet. I honestly feel the most creative when I experience the most uncomfortable emotions. My form of creativity is creating content like this. And I have felt really creative these past few weeks because there is so much negativity happening. And I feel like for me to process it and to release it is also to express it through my creative means. And so maybe for you, it's painting or drawing or writing or building something. Maybe it is creating content. Maybe it's music or art or whatever it is that puts you in that sort of like that flow state. Do more of that. Maybe it's sports or hiking or skiing or snowboarding. Whatever can put you in that flow state that helps you tap into the that sort of like frequency of nothing else matters. I'm focused on this and I'm expressing myself through this. Do more of that, and maybe it will help you process these emotions. Another thing that I just thought of too is one way I help process these things is by like listening to sad music. That can also be a form of creativity. Just anything that helps you like get really in tune with what you're feeling, and then that allows you to release it in some sort of way. I know that when I listen to like sad, dark emo music, if I'm feeling in some sort of mood, it helps me release it, it helps me feel it, and it helps me release it. And I do feel a little bit better afterwards. So find a creative outlet, maybe even try a new creative outlet, something that you've never tried before that you've always like kind of had in the back of your mind, and try that. That's really important. Another thing that I would say too that kind of goes along with that is make sure that you are taking care of your physical health right now. Sometimes it feels like our physical health can become less of a priority when it feels like we have so much going on in our lives, or in times like right now when it feels like there's just so much chaos happening all around us in the world. But I know for me personally, after a good workout, even after just going for a walk and moving my body for 15 minutes, I feel better, and it feels like I have more capacity to process and work through and find solutions and be more optimistic about whatever it is I was worried or whatever it was I was fearful about. For me, that's going to the gym. For you, it might be dancing. It might be yoga or Pilates. It might be playing sports. It might be doing like outside activities. Just whatever it is that allows you to move your body and that you feel joyful while doing it, do more of that. And one thing I will suggest too, kind of sounds crazy, but something that always helps get me out of like a negative headspace is to play like a good dance song on my phone. I'll put it on my headphones, I'll close my eyes, and I'll just shake my body, acting like no one's watching, and just shake it out for the duration of that song. If you're feeling down right now, pause this video and just try that. Just try that and come back and let me know how it feels. And I think it's safe to say that you probably feel at least a little bit better after doing that. And if you don't, that's okay too, but maybe try it again, because it always feels good to just kind of change our physical state if we're feeling down. Like, I know if I'm feeling down, I'm like kind of slouched over, feeling a little bit just like closed off, which is okay. And sometimes it feels safe to do that. And also, if we feel ready to get out of that state, but we just kind of feel stuck, using what we have that's available to us, like shaking our body, could be really helpful. And then I just have one more tip, and it probably is one of the most important things on here for just finding ways to practice more self-care and finding more ways to regulate during times like these. And that's remembering that you don't have to do it all right now. And when I say that, I mean it for a couple different scenarios. The first is you probably have things, personal things going on in your life that are overwhelming. And you don't have to have that all figured out right now. Just slow down, take it one day or maybe even an hour, or sometimes on those really hard days, just take it 1 minute at a time. Just focus on the next step in front of you. Don't focus on the whole staircase. Just focus on the next step in front of you. And the other scenario that I would apply this to is when it comes to advocacy, when it comes to activism. It feels sometimes hopeless, and it feels sometimes like evil is winning. And because of this, it feels like, what can I do? Like, there's nothing I can do to stop this. But maybe try changing your perspective a little bit, and instead of trying to focus on the things that you don't necessarily have control over, focus on what you can do right now in this moment. Maybe it's donating to your favorite organization or volunteering. Maybe it's something as simple as smiling at a stranger or holding the door open for someone, or doing some sort of small act of kindness for someone. Because those little, small acts of kindness, small acts of love, it creates a domino effect. And so if it feels too overwhelming to take on the gigantic issues that we're facing in the world that we don't really have solutions to, focus on what you do have a solution to. And that's just showing up as a good, loving human every day. And so focus on that next step rather than looking and being overwhelmed at the gigantic staircase. Because if we continuously focus on that next step, and then on that next step, and on that next step, we'll get there eventually. So I hope that these tips are helpful, and maybe a few of them are some things that you can incorporate into your life as well in times like right now. And if anyone else has any tips that they'd like to share for practicing more self-care during these times, please, please, please let me know in the comments below. It will be helpful to all of us. So thank you for watching.